All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We are officially live, and we are really appreciating every single minute that we have today with the SMLTSA. You guys asked for them, and we have them right here with you today. I'm so excited. So I am Leah M. Mulai, and thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm really excited that we are now able to share your experiences and why you guys decided to form this amazing platform. And now we get to introduce you to the rest of the medical technology world. So thank you so much. I'm just going to introduce myself. Those of you who do not know me, my name is Leah M. Mulai, and I myself am a medical technologist, qualified in Clin Path. And we really started this as just lab talk at 5 o'clock. We started on Instagram, and we were just teaching people about what we do in the lab, because we were in the news as doctors, nurses, and the other healthcare workers. So we got a bit tired of being called the other healthcare workers, and we wanted the world to know who we are, who the people behind the scenes are, and so everybody can know exactly what it is that we do. And that's what started this whole thing. It then later on turned into giving more information to medical technologists about their own profession. So there is other things that, you know, everybody has a certain speciality, and we do want to know a bit more about each other's field. And so I'm really excited to introduce to you the members here of the SMLTSA, and they will introduce themselves. We will go in order, and we will start with you, Wendy. Wendy, welcome.
Thank you, Leah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Wendy Solomon. So my day job is I'm a lecturer at CPUT, Cape Peninsula University of Technology. I've been there for a number of years. And prior to that, I worked in the routine laboratories at Pathcare Laboratory. My current portfolio with the SMLTSA is that I'm the vice president, and I also deal with some of the education issues, as well as the journal that's run by the SMLTSA. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Terry, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our afternoon together. I'm Terry van Jaarsveld. I have a qualification in clinical pathology. I've been a medical technologist for many years. My day job is I'm the clinical practice coordinator at CPUT for the 3rd and 4th year MLS students, medical laboratory scientist students. I look after them when they go into their work integrated learning, and I see them through that 18 months. I have experience in numerous other disciplines, including point of care testing, which is a passion, and pre-analytics, which is another passion. So I've got a very varied interest. Okay.
Thank you so much, Terry. And we have a special guest here. I have people who have been raving about Carol, and I've had people tell me, oh, she was my lecturer, especially Janine. I hope she's on here. Janine, if you're on here, welcome. So Janine has been looking forward to see her favorite lecturer from, you were doing cytogenetics, I hear, but let me allow you to introduce yourself, Carol.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Leah, and good evening, everybody. I think this is a wonderful opportunity that we can get to know each other better and answer all these questions that everybody always has. So about myself, I've been involved in our profession for many years. I've been involved in most facets of our profession. My own discipline is cytogenetics, but I've been involved, as Leah has said, as a part-time lecturer for probably 30 years now, and involved as an examiner and a moderator. And in that light, I got involved in the Port Elizabeth branch of SMLTSA. we have always been very passionate about sharing knowledge and providing a platform for our mini congresses and our national congresses, and we'll touch on that a bit later. And then I got involved and invited to be a member of the Medical Technology Board from 2010 to 2015, which was a big learning curve. And recently I have been president of SMLTSA, and my current position is past president. We have a wonderful team at the moment. And then lastly, along the way, I had my own private practice for almost 10 years. So I've inherited the private practice portfolio on our executive committee. So we have also logged private practice as one of our topics this evening.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. We are so grateful that you have been able to join us today. I mean, it is quite an amazing thing that you were passionate about sharing information, and here you are many years later still sharing information. And I'm so glad we were able to meet in such a platform where everybody is interested in knowing more about the field. So just to bring it back to you, Carol, we want to know what the role of the SMLTSA is at the HPCSA. If you can just give us a bit more information as to how the SMLTSA was first created, why it was created, and why it's still important to this day. And how old is the SMLTSA? Over to you, Carol.
Okay, so if we go right back, the SMLTSA was formed in the early 1950s. Mm-hmm. So it's come a long way. It's about 70 years old. And in those days, the provinces were all very different as they are now. The profession was extremely different to how it is now. Nobody studied at universities. It was all in-house training. And Terry and I are probably of the era that remember that well, where you did not study at university. It was totally in-house training. And SMLTSA, one of its primary functions from the very beginning has been education. So we've been involved in setting the syllabi, arranging the board examinations, arranging the moderators, the marking of the papers, the sharing of those papers, setting the standard. And many of our students today, I think they don't realize, they think there's this magical body. There's this magical person that the exam papers just appear. But there are these bodies of people behind those papers in every single discipline. So if one looks at, I think at our last meeting when you chatted about the scientific advisory committees. And this is the collection where we would like to share and invite all the experts who've had more than 5 years experience in their particular discipline. They are welcome to, first of all, join SMLTSA and therefore become involved in the Scientific Advisory Committee, where they can become involved in updating syllabi and getting involved on the academic side. Now, not everybody wants to be involved on the academic side, but if you want to, that is really a nice way to keep up to date, to learn, to mix with your peers in your same discipline, and to grow yourself. So SMLTSA's main function, as I've said, is education. And the other way is that we basically uphold the principles of our profession. So we would like to think that if somebody has a real problem, if someone has an issue, that they would contact us and one of us in some way or other could assist. So the platform that you have now opened, I think is wonderful. we have not got ourselves so set up on social media, Leah. And you seem to be an absolute whiz in social media. So I think that's a wonderful way that perhaps we can have an arm out there that's linking to your groups, and to join us, because I think we all have the same mission.
Absolutely, absolutely. We all have the same mission, because what we're looking for is basically a platform to be able to share information. You know, there's not a lot of us that can just go out and get the information. And for me, it happened for me when I used to go and visit the labs. I would get the same question over and over and over. And I asked myself, how can I answer the same question over and over to so many different people every single time? So I thought, let me share it, what I know, and what I don't know, I will bring in other people to give us more light on that. So I don't know everything. I know my bit. I'm Clin Path, and I'm mainly Chem Path and immunology focused. So I brought in a lot more people, and I'm so grateful that a lot of the people that I did invite came on and they shared their parts and they gave us ideas as to how to progress in the profession. Those who want to stay in the lab, how can they grow in the lab and be happy in the lab? And those who wanted to go out, we brought in more people, and we will still bring in more people to find out exactly how to do that. You know, like now we were talking about how to branch in to the private sector, and open up our own medical technology practices, right? So I think it's a good platform, and I'm happy for us to be able to be here today so anyone can get the information that they're looking for. So those of you guys who are watching, if you have a comment or a question, please do put the comment in there and let us know whether you are watching on YouTube or whether you are watching on my page. You can be able to find the information on there. So we really appreciate some interaction from you guys and let us know what it is that we want to know. So just to head on more into the questions, I think I will start with an easy one that we can just tick off the list. And that is, who is allowed to work in a molecular lab? So this was one thing that came up in the group. And, you know, there was a bit of a confusion to say there is no specific discipline that, you know, they can come and write their own board exam for molecular, but who can work in a molecular lab? So if we can get that one answered, please. So who wants to take up this one?
I don't mind bringing in my little bit of info,
Okay,
and maybe. Okay, I was going to say maybe Carol also wants to come in on here. Carol, before you answer, if I may just share with the platform that we do have a molecular biology syllabus, which is HPCSA approved. And we are on point of starting the first load of students going in. And it is hopefully going to be at Pathcare in Cape Town. It's the only laboratory at this stage accredited by the HPCSA as a training lab in molecular pathology. So I'm waiting on confirmation for that, but it's exciting because it's going to be the first group of students that will be starting this new discipline. Carol, if you want to take over, do you want to continue?
So Carol, what more can we add on that? Yes.
Can Carol hear?
I think I was on mute. So my question for you, I think I was on mute there. So I wanted to know, so what are the requirements for, because now there's only one institution, what are the requirements if one has to go in? What do they need to meet to be able to offer this?
Are you talking the actual laboratory itself? Obviously,
The laboratory itself.
training laboratory has to be able to service the needs of the syllabus. So in other words, all the items that are contained, the contents of the syllabus, have to be able to be offered to the students, both theoretically and practically in the laboratory. The theory is more obviously from the CPUT side. However, the practical aspect, they have to have all the tests available for the students to be trained. And don't forget that molecular, up to now, has been broken up into the different disciplines. It's never been just one discipline. Now we're going to have one discipline, and we have to see how the laboratories are going to incorporate it. They obviously will have to still have some molecular pathology in some of the disciplines. For example, flow cytometry, that is going to have to stay in hematology. There's certain tests in immunology, virology that will need to stay within those departments. But it remains to be seen at this moment whether they will have a totally separate department, which I actually don't think will happen. I think it will be integrated into all the different disciplines. Okay.
Could I perhaps add something, Leah?
Yes, yes. Wendy, please come in. You're also knowledgeable on this.
So just to point out, so what Terry is talking about is with regards to the BHSc degree, the Medical Laboratory Science degree, where the students do their discipline, or what we previously called the internship, as part of the degree. So that's where a new discipline has come in, which is the molecular pathology. So I think we lost Carol, but just to explain, so for the individuals that do not have, or that are not doing the medical laboratory science degree. So if we talk about the medical technologists out there, or the technicians, so the current rule is that if you want to perform any molecular tasks, it needs to be, you are confined to those that were covered in your syllabus. So in whichever year you did your medical technician course, or your medical technology internship, so whichever molecular components were covered in that syllabus is what you are allowed to do. And in most instances, if you are, for instance, hematology registered, you are then only allowed to perform or sign out results for molecular tests in that discipline. So that is where we currently find ourselves. So even though we are exposed to general molecular tests like PCR is done across many disciplines, we can, however, only sign out those results linked to the discipline in which we are HPCSA registered. So I hope that sort of explains it a bit, why there are certain limitations. I don't know if Carol wants to add more there.
Carol, would you want to add something a bit more? I know we had lost you a little bit, but if you want to say something, maybe just to reiterate.
I would. Thank you, Leah. Sorry about that. I lost my connection. What I would just like to add is that I know we received many, many queries on this as technology has changed. And I think, Leah, you touched on this, where people now work on a particular analyzer which can perform multi-platform of testing. And this is what's changed a lot in the laboratory. So in before, the different categories were really cut and dried. Chemistry was chemistry, virology was virology, hematology. But now with these multidisciplinary platforms, that technology is really changing, that a particular person of whichever discipline can load, can calibrate, can troubleshoot that particular platform of testing. But the tricky thing is that they would not have built up expertise and a depth of knowledge to be able to report a result in every discipline that platform can manage. So that is the challenge that we are having at the moment. In that is to be able to provide a particular situation in the laboratory where people can grow, although the technology is changing so much. Does that answer your question a bit?
I think you're on mute, Leah.
You can have a virology essay sitting on what you would have called a chemistry analyzer. And so that definitely does pose a bit of a challenge. And I think while we were talking about this, Wendy, I think that can then move us into the articulation, because, for example, now, if you are a technician and you want to become a medical technologist, what is the process there? I think this is one that was of much interest to a lot of people, and we were unable to touch on it the last time. So please let us know a little bit more, Wendy, how can technicians articulate into medical technologists?
Okay, so in the past, there were a few UOTs offering what they call bridging or conversion courses from the medical technician to the medical technologist via the National Diploma in Biomedical Technology. But unfortunately, that route is being phased out. I think there's one UOT who still has pipeline students converting to the medical technology diploma. The qualification framework in South Africa has changed, and with that change, it has affected the qualifications within our profession. So at the moment, the HPCSA has got a program in place that they're working on. It's called the Education Transformation Project. And in that project, they are looking at ways in which lab assistants can articulate to technicians, and where technicians can articulate to the next level, which is the technologist or the medical laboratory scientist. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of information I can give for this particular articulation from technician to technologist, as that process is on the one side being phased out, and on the other hand, it's part of a new transformation project by the HPCSA.
I'd just like to add there to that, to what Wendy is saying. It's 100% correct. The current board has actually taken that pretty far. And unfortunately, with the event of COVID, a lot of meetings and work that was supposed to happen in March, April this year, so that the previous board could finalize a lot by the time their term ended in June. Unfortunately, it's been a real mix-up, as everyone understands. So a lot of this, which they hoped to have been completed furthered in this term, will now have to move over to the new board of the HPCSA. So while we're touching on HPCSA, Leah, I think I would just like to clarify here is that where SMLTSA comes in to HPCSA, there always seems to be a lot of confusion as to what SMLTSA, where we stop, where HPCSA starts. Okay. So if we look at the HPCSA board, there are about 8 members of the board, and those members are actually from our profession. So they are nominated by our profession. So anybody, any of us, any of you, when nominations are called for, they call for experts or people with experience, and you can submit a name to the board, and then the actual Minister of Health, with guidance, obviously, looks at all the different CVs, and they appoint 4 or 5 members of the board from the profession. The other members of the board are representatives from the Department of Health, Community, and Government. But together, the HPCSA basically approves what the SMLTSA does. So, for example, let's start off with the syllabus. Let's take clinical pathology because that's the majority of the field. So let's just say the Clin Path syllabus needs to be updated. So it starts off with the members who belong to the Scientific Advisory Committee of SMLTSA, the SAC. And anybody post 5 years qualification is welcome to get involved and join. Okay. They put in
5 years.
Input. 5 years. 5 years. Okay. They have input as to the syllabus. It gets tweaked and updated and verified by SMLTSA. And then that syllabus is sent to the Medical Technology Board of the HPCSA. And they basically rubber stamp it. Okay. So that syllabus cannot be put into use before the HPCSA has rubber stamped it. And there are many different issues that SMLTSA might do and might perform all the background work, but then it gets sent to the HPCSA for the MedTech board to be rubber stamped. Okay. And then it is in place.
Thank you for that. I think it's quite clear now. We've been calling it the SMLTSA board exam, and I can tell you now, Carol Smith has been like, no, it's not the SMLTSA. She's still like trying to get us to get it and say it correctly, and we're like, Carol, I don't know what you're talking about. This thing is the SMLTSA board exam, and so she tried really in the group to try and explain to us what the difference is. I just want to take a couple of questions and comments from the people on here. So Menzi Kumalo says, can a Clin Path Technologists sign out HIV virology PCR results?
No.
So who can and why can they not?
Okay, so maybe I can go back to my previous comment where you can only sign out results that form part of your registration with the HPCSA. So if you are a virology registered medical technologist, you can sign out HIV virology PCR results. So a Clin Path technologist is not registered to sign out virology related results. Yeah. And
serology, those immunology, can they sign that out? Because that's their syllabus.
Look, sometimes the HIV is run in serology, but then that's a serological test. It's not a PCR test. It's a different type of test.
I see. So they can sign off their serology where they can have the antibodies and they can sign that out, but the PCR has to go to virology. Or molecular. Great stuff. Okay, so that was one question that we had on there. There is a question here that says, as a molecular pathologist, what is your specialty? It seems like it's so broad. What would make a molecular pathologist special? If I have this question right.
We can't.
Okay.
Who's going to answer this?
You can start, Carol, and I'll add if need be.
Okay. So I think this is a very good question that's been asked, and I think this is the crux of many queries today. And I touched on that earlier on about the multidisciplinary platform, which covers many fields, but it's very difficult to be an expert in all those different disciplines of that analyzer. Okay, so the molecular pathology I like to use the word, is that molecular pathology is a technique. It's not a discipline.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that's the crux of where people get confused. Molecular pathology is not a discipline like hematology. It's a technique. And the way that the testing has developed and has grown is that, as we all know, all of us involved in this chat tonight, is that molecular pathology is coming into every single discipline. So whereas years ago, if we look at HIV was maybe one of the first only PCR tests in the lab. 10 years later, 15 years later, molecular pathology is in histology, cytology, microbiology. It's a technique. And the tricky thing is that people now need these technologists. They need the competencies of these people who need to understand the DNA process and PCR technologies and the next generation sequencing that's coming into all these different laboratories. But your grounding expertise is unfortunately still discipline-based. And this, to me, is one of the biggest challenges facing our profession at the moment, is how we are going to navigate marrying the technology and the expertise in each discipline. Wendy, you can add on to that.
Oh, I was just going to add that as part of the discipline that's going to be offered with the MLS course is that those students will actually rotate to various disciplines to master the techniques or the molecular techniques used in each discipline. So it's a bit of a generalist. However, their speciality is going to be the molecular techniques, as Carol has pointed out. And in certain labs, like if you use the PathCare laboratory in Cape Town, for example, they have one molecular laboratory where most of the testing is done in that particular reference lab. So in a scenario like that, someone with molecular pathology as a discipline would be able to work in that particular laboratory. Currently, if you have a look, it's mostly medical biological scientists that are employed in those laboratories.
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
So with this discipline, our medical laboratory scientists from our profession will be able to work in those molecular laboratories.
Oh, that will be amazing. We have a comment here from Lumka, and Lumka is saying here that this is a great discussion, ladies. We are picking up great points. I'm all ears. Thank you so much, Lumka. I'm glad you're getting a lot of value out of this. And as we continue on with the discussion, Carol is busy as usual. I mean, this was Wendy the last time in the chat going and giving out all the comments on there. And Carol has always been saying molecular biology is the technique. Molecular pathology
is a discipline.
Right. And so we really appreciate that. So, yes.
Leah, can I just make a point here in that question? The prior question.
Absolutely.
The person said, as a molecular pathologist, they are not a pathologist. They are a molecular pathology scientist. Okay, they are not a pathologist. A pathologist is a doctor. They just need to make sure, okay, there's the terminology of the name.
That right, terminology. I think we need to have I don't know, maybe we need to post a glossary of some sort, because honestly, we have like so many other terminology issues that are always getting in the way. We don't know what is what because we use the words very loosely without really thinking about it, and none of us really want to correct it because we never really know. And Carol is very precise. She says SMLTSA started in 1951. It is just amazing. And we have more and more comments on here. So I'm just going to take two of these. And Matimela Honky says, I think we need to be vanguard of our own profession. What are the ramifications for laboratories that are not complying?
Not complying to what?
I think this is based on the molecular and scope of practice.
Okay.
Okay.
Correct us if we're wrong, Honky. We are interpreting this as a discipline and scope of practice. Just let us know if we have it right. Yeah. So here's Honky's question. So who would like to take this one on? Terry?
I think, yes, the ramifications for laboratories that are not complying. That means that they are having staff, technologists or scientists working outside their scope of practice. It's against the rules set down by the HPCSA. And if you are an accredited laboratory, that should not be happening. You have to be qualified in a specific discipline to be able to practice the full scope of that discipline. If you are not complying, then you are in trouble.
We appreciate that.
I think
Carol can come in there too, maybe.
The word that Terry used was accredited laboratory. So she's correct there. If you're working for an accredited laboratory, that means you are SANIS accredited in most cases in South Africa. And to be an accredited laboratory, they do that annual and biannual check. And one of the big issues that they check is scope of practice. And we pick up many issues where technologists or the company is allowing perhaps overlap of scope. There are also issues of having only a certain number of technicians to technologists, students to technologists if you're a training lab. And there are all these different guidelines that do exist in accredited laboratories. The problem often is really not in those laboratories. It might be more in the laboratories that are not accredited. That is more difficult to control.
Yeah. I think, Carol, as well, that maybe in those situations in the non-accredited laboratories, there could be medical legal outcomes. For example, if technologists or technicians are practicing outside their scope of what they qualified in, and there is a mistake, like a fatal mistake, then the laboratory, as far as I know, is not protected against any form of somebody suing them, whereas in an accredited lab, there has to also be some form of, or one could call it the bosses take out medical insurance against malpractice. In your unaccredited labs, there are a lot of laboratories that do, actually, I would say not even allow, but they force some of their staff to perform outside their scope of practice. And the staff have no say. Whereas in an accredited lab, there's an infrastructure and there's a go-to as well. Whereas in an unaccredited lab, they can basically do what they want.
We can also add here that this is another arm of our society.
Yes.
That if there are questions out there, Leah, like your members of your group have got issues and queries, they can notify us and we can take it up on their behalf. So that is part of our mission, of our statement, our mission statement of SMLTSA.
And how will they be protected? So I want to know, if I report something like this, how am I going to be, in a way, not led to being harassed by the lab that I'm reporting?
Yeah.
Well, you can actually report it in two ways. You can report it anonymously,
Yeah.
or you can give a name. You can do it in both ways. But just remember that the SMLTSA is not a legal body.
No.
So unfortunately, we're not a legal body. We cannot march into a laboratory and assess them and ask to see documentation and so on. But what we can do, we have all registers as to who are qualified and as to what they are qualified in. So if it's a scope of practice issue, that is something very easy for us to ascertain as to if there is overlap or are they practicing out of scope. We can do that very easily.
Oh, thank you for that one. I think we have another question which I thought we touched on earlier, but maybe it was not very clear. So Miranda is asking, how does one become a medical laboratory scientist if she has a diploma in biomedical technology? So Carol answered here in the comments to say it is articulation, but I think Miranda wants just if we can just do one or two sentences for Miranda to just.
Yes, so that is also part. So that is part of the articulation from a medical technologist to a medical laboratory scientist, and at the moment, this is an education articulation pathway. So a medical technologist can apply to do an articulation degree. So an articulation to the BHSc Medical Laboratory Science degree. And at the moment, CPUT is the only institution that's offering this. I think at later stages, some of the other UTs will also offer an articulation pathway. So at CPUT at the moment, it's a minimum 2-year articulation degree program. So, and CPUT uses an online blended learning process. So you can still work and be employed as a medical technologist while pursuing further studies, as most of the content is online. And then there are also a few face-to-face contact sessions arranged throughout the year. But now with the COVID regulations in place, most of the course has been offered online, which works perfectly for people sitting in different places across the country, even though it's offered in Cape Town or by CPUT. So, yeah, so it's an education articulation.
Wendy, sorry.
Yeah?
Wendy, two questions. So since it's been offered online, so UNISA, for example, people have been registering there and they have not been able to be recognized because of the physical, practical work that has to be done. How is CPUT able to offer? How much practical is actually involved in the articulation that you can offer it fully online without having to go in and do any form of practicals?
Okay, so Leah, one of the requirements for the course is that you must be an HPCSA registered medical technologist currently practicing. So say for instance, you are a hematology technologist working in hematology and you do the course, we actually acknowledge the fact that you are working and that credits you towards the practical components.
Okay,
so a lot
beautiful.
a lot of the course is based on just including all the newer aspects of the subjects that were taught in the national diploma. So for instance, we redo hematology, chemical pathology, microbiology, but we add the newer techniques and especially the molecular techniques we also introduce. And because the degree is offered at a higher NQF level than the national diploma, all the assessments need to be pitched at a particular level. So there's a lot more integration within the course instead of just compartmentalizing the different disciplines. So even if you're someone working in cytology, you will start realizing that what happens in chemistry and micro and hematology has an impact on what you are doing in cytology in terms of the patient's diagnosis. So there's a lot of focus on integrating the disciplines, even though you are perhaps registered in a monodiscipline. So I hope that answered your question about the practical component.
Absolutely. Because I think that is great. So since it's pitched on a higher level, there's another question here that says from Menzi, is medical laboratory scientist not equivalent to BTech in biomedical technology?
Okay, so like I mentioned before, the qualification framework in South Africa has changed. So your national diploma is at an NQF level 6, your BTech is at an NQF level 7, and the BHSc degree is at an honors level NQF 8. So what that means is that with that NQF level 8, you can go straight and then do a master's degree as well, which is at an NQF level 9. So with the change in the qualification framework, the problem that's going to come up in future is that someone with a national diploma who might want to pursue a master's degree in the future won't be able to do that because the BTech has been completely phased out. So that person with an NQF level 6 qualification needs to articulate to an NQF level 8 qualification in order to apply for a master's. So that is just one scenario. And then also just to point out that the BHSc degree, because it's an NQF level 8 qualification, it's also recognized internationally. So in some countries, individuals with a national diploma are not being employed as technologists or laboratory scientists. They are being employed as technicians, for example, because the qualification is not recognized. So with the BHSc, it's been internationally benchmarked, so it is recognized.
So thank you. So Menzi also says thank you, thanks, I understand. So we really appreciate that. My next question is, so since the NQF level has gone higher, the lecturers that have to do that, so I remember with the diploma, you could have a BTech for a junior lecturer, and now they had to upgrade and get master's levels to be able to lecture in that discipline. So for anyone else who wants to go in and lecture, that an option B. Right. So.
That's correct. So you need a master's degree in order to be appointed as a lecturer. There are certain programs in place which appoint people with a BTech as a junior lecturer, but then they have to do their master's within a certain period of time in order to be appointed as a full-time lecturer. So, but you are correct that now the minimum requirement now is a master's degree.
You know, Leah,
thank you so much. I'm sure that. Yes.
Leah, I want to just add to what Wendy has said now. I think it's pointing to a very important fact, and I've had this question posed to me quite a lot by my present third and fourth year students. What happens? What can they do once they have got their BHSc? Obviously, to either go into research or to go on do their masters and then PhD. That the qualified staff that at present have got the diploma or higher diploma or BTech to articulate, because it is coming that the BHSc is going to be the degree and the qualification to have, especially if you want to work overseas. You have to have a minimum of a master's.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. So I think we definitely are at this point where we are running 49 minutes, actually, almost an hour. And so I think we will also take up more of these questions on another session. We've been saying the SMLTSA is so big that you need like multiple sessions just to even touch little bits of information on the. So the next sessions that we will be touching on the next time when we meet we'll be talking about the journal, which we are excited about.
I think the time is up.
Join in
I
and
think
be
the time's
able
up.
to be part of such an amazing initiative. So it has always been there, but I mean, I found out about it when I was doing my master's. So it's amazing that anyone can go on and share their information. And if you want to also open up your own private practice, unfortunately today we have run out of time, but we will be able to put in those two. So for those who want to open your own private practices, we will then announce at a later stage when we come back again together. Carol, I don't know if you maybe want to touch on a little bit, like 2 seconds, on the requirements for a private practice so they can go and research a little bit furthermore. And when we come back the next time, then they can know what next steps to take for their private practices.
Okay, so I think in a nutshell, the first thing I want to say is obviously you have to have at least 2 years post-registration, okay? So if you haven't got that, don't even waste your time. And 2 years post-registration, you apply to the Medical Technology Board of the HPCSA. If they want any assistance, they're welcome to contact SMLTSA. We've got a private practice portfolio. We can assist you. You need to be a member, and we will happily assist you with that. The biggest challenge that many people have is that they might have the expertise for the laboratory, but they struggle on the business management side. You then overnight have to deal with medical aids. You have to deal with medical aids that aren't fully paying your full claim. You're busy with this suppliers, buying reagents, purchasing. So the financial side and the business management side is often the biggest challenge. So you've got your scope, you've got your competencies of your laboratory, you need to be 2 years post-registered, and then you need to get your business management side sorted. But we will definitely deal with this more in depth at our next meeting. Is our time up, or is there any questions that someone would like to ask quickly?
I think it looks like our time's up.
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, the time's up. Wendy, are you there still?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, I think Leah's time's up. Leah, you there? We can't hear you.
Leah's on mute.
Leah, can't hear. No, we can't hear her.
Terry, is it a 50-minute slot?
I don't quite know. I think it could be 50, but we already on 59 minutes now, so it must be an hour. 59 now.
Well, I don't know if she's closing up, but we can't hear her.
Yeah, she's gone.
Okay.
Okay, nice to see you ladies there.
All right.
Nice.
Thanks.
Wendy.
Listen, I'm going to be in Cape Town next week for the NEC meeting.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm not sure. Are you going to be there? You'll be there, Wendy?
Yes, I'm going to be there too.
Are we physically going to be there or via Zoom?
It's via Zoom, but we're going to gate crash to say hello to Carol.
Okay, all right, good. Come have a cup of tea with me. 14th. I'll see you there.
The 14th, eh?
Okay,
yes.
14th, the Wednesday.
You had lost me there for a second. Something happened.
Oh, yes.
All right, I'm back. I think something terrible happened, but you know what? Technology is technology. technology. It is what it is. We get so used to it right now. I think we used to panic so much when something went wrong. Oh my God, what is happening? But right now, it's the new normal. We are working with it. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, it doesn't do it. There's no need for us to stress about it anymore. So let me just read a few comments from the people here. Rose Naka says, well done, ladies. Thank you so much, Rose. We appreciate you. And Lakin, I hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you, ladies. Always wonderful getting to know the SMLTSA in more detail. Looking forward to the next session. Thank you so much. And Hunsi says, yeah, thank you for this. It is very informative. I thank you so much. This is amazing. So we really are grateful. And I'm really excited. So next time we will be talking about how to open your own private practice and be able to give the right way, right? So we will be able to know, and so you can let us know exactly what it is that you need to be specializing in and how to deal with those suppliers and how to conduct yourself and move from just being a practicing medical technologist to actually running an actual business, profitable, hopefully. So thank you so much. If you want more information, you can go to the SMLTSA and go on there and join in and be part of this amazing group of people. So I want to thank you so much for joining us in today. Any final words? I'm going to start with you, Wendy.
Thank you, Leah, for creating this opportunity for us to showcase what the SMLTSA does. And we often get asked, what does the SMLTSA do for us? So I just want to turn that question around and ask everybody, ask yourself, what can you do for the profession?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Terry, what are your final words?
You know, Leah, thank you so much for creating this platform that we can share and share with like-minded people, and that we can share how our profession has grown and continues to grow. And the more people that join the SMLTSA, the better we're going to get, the more talk we've got, and I can just see progression all the way ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Leah. I just want to echo what Terry has said. I think it's wonderful to have this new social media hip and happening contact that we battle to keep up with. And so I think it's definitely moving in the right direction. And from my part, I can just honestly say that the more you get involved, the more you will get out of it. Yeah. So in that, I'll close. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. I will keep you guys in the loop to say what it is that we are going to do and the date for the next session. And we will be able to follow the SMLTSA. I know the tag book is on Instagram, so if you guys can follow them there on Instagram, we really appreciate it. I mean, they have been an absolute. I don't know what I'd do without them. They help me so much putting the posters together, putting the word out there, and I really love and appreciate you guys. So thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Leah Amulai, and those who are watching the replay or you've missed it, you can get it on the page, and you can also get it on my YouTube channel. So thank you once again, and we'll see you soon. Bye. Bye.